Welcome everybody to Outlawed Thoughts. My name is Leighton Ranner and I'm joined here by CD McRae and Kareem Maize. We're going to be talking about a bunch of random stories and interesting stuff here today, but I'll go ahead and let these two intro themselves, starting with you, CD. Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm CD McRae, and I host a podcast that's been on hold, but I host a podcast called Whiskey and Tea. And now that I live in Austin, and I really do have a whole lot of opportunity for guests, and so I've been working on that. But yeah, I'm Lady ANCAP on Twitter. Follow me there for updates.
And you go ahead, Kareem.
Hey everybody, I'm Kareem. I'm a state organizer with the Mises Caucus in Pennsylvania. I also host a show called The Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools you need for self-governance. You can find me on Twitter at Kareem for Liberty or Kareem Kareem.Maize. Also Kareem for Liberty on Facebook as well.
Awesome. So, getting into things tonight, we have a couple stories involving like stock market stuff that CD sent me, as well as some other stuff. We're pretty much doing stories that you sent me this time around. I was kind of unprepared for this show. I had a few things, but I don't know. I think the headlines and the ones you sent me were a little bit better.
Awesome.
So, but I guess first, I want to talk a little bit about the libertarian space and stuff like that, because I do talk about that on this podcast, specifically with Reno coming up and the convention, the Libertarian Party National Convention, kind of a message to all the delegates and people who've been making their way out that way. The Mises Caucus is doing what hopefully will be a historical event within the Libertarian Party. It is going to be kind of bringing back the Ron Paul era back to the Libertarian Party. That's the goal.
Yes.
Going into things, I guess what I want to talk about tonight maybe is how we think it will play out after the fact, not necessarily on the caucus side. I think we all have ideas about what will happen there and how growth comes and different things like that. And I think a lot of that's going to have to be learned ultimately as we go. But more so the reaction from the so-called haters or fakertarians or loser brigade or whatever moniker pussies, whatever moniker we've decided to put on them for this week. I guess it would be
a bad word, Leighton.
Oh, I know. Absolutely.
Libertarians don't use bad words.
No, definitely not. So I guess that's the topic, right? So what do we think the reaction is going to be? I know somebody put up a poll within the Libertarian discussion group a few weeks ago on the cesspool that is Facebook that was talking about the fact that it was like a poll talking about what people's reactions post Reno would be if the Mises Caucus took over. And there was a bunch of people on there who I recognized, even a couple people from my state, who voted that they would leave the party entirely. So I think that's more the angle that I want to talk about is what percentage of these people do you think kick rocks? How many of them do you think stick around? And how many of them do you think you're here in a year?
You go, Kareem. You go.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the reaction is going to be what it was. They're going to act like they had the superiority. They're going to make up some claim like, "Oh, we only lost in Pennsylvania, but by a small margin." It's kind of like what the other political factions do when they lose. They're like, "Oh, but it was because of this. But it was because of this. But if we just had." This or that. But, if Biden just did this or Trump just did this or, Hillary just had that, we would have won. And it's just, they'll blame something nonsensical too. They'll say, oh, it was this or that. We haven't got to blaming Russia yet, but maybe, heck, I'm not ruling that out of the cards. Oh, well, Kareem, we would have won at Reno and stopped the evil Ron Paul people if it just wasn't for Vladimir Putin. So I really joked with the Cathedral Caucus. I said, when you're running like Hillary and stuff, and I bet you they're sad. CNN Plus went down. So here's my thing. I've asked them. I asked the Cathedral, the people. I wasn't even rude. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys fight for liberty instead of just calling, the other side out all the time? Like inflation, Yemen. Does anything like a problem besides like someone said something mean on a chat thing like 2 years ago.
Well, no,
And they're
they
like,
blamed the food shortages in Yemen on Russia. We talked about that a few
that's
shows ago.
amazing. That's amazing. That's like, I don't even know. That's a level of cognitive dissonance that I can't even get to. But they're probably going to blame some nonsensical thing on why they lost. They're going to say Ron Paul isn't the real, like, he's a bad influence for some god awful reason. He doesn't want to stay in NATO or something is like the big thing now. Oh my God, he doesn't want to get involved in something we shouldn't be involved in first place. And then they're probably going to, like, I even asked them, they said, like, hey, we are fighting for liberty and that, and you guys are just a fringe minority. I said, how did we win in Pennsylvania then? No answer. So they're going to do that.
Right.
They're just going to hurl insults. They're going to lose again because they don't stand for anything. Actually, I'll say this. Every political party that I know of that's significant, I don't know anything about the Forward Party, so fine. And I'm not great with the Green Party or every party, aside from the Mises Caucus, is probably pro-corporate in some way. Yes, the GOP is too. They're poor, I guarantee you, your so-called red wave will result in a lot of rhinos giving you nice speeches and doing the exact same thing the Democrats are doing. People will be like, how come that up? And then Tim Pool will be like, I can't, I don't know why that happened. Because it's the same thing. We're the only force out there that's really fighting for decentralization. So everybody's going to badmouth us. Oh, they're this, they're that. They're Ron Paul guy. They're just a GOP plant. As far as I'm concerned, after this, I'll stop here. Some people will leave who don't have libertarian principles. Fine. Some people left. And I don't hate those people. Some people left. Like, I saw there's some people in the Cathedral Caucus that just left. I think Ashley Shade just left. Okay. They can go wherever they want to go.
My twin.
Yeah, is that your twin?
My twin in the LP, yeah.
So let them leave. Let people who don't have the Ron Paul principles leave. I don't need an overwhelming majority. Let people who think Ron Paul had something to say, or Murray Rothbard, or Matt Kibbe. It's not just Ron Paul, but it's mostly Ron Paul, in my opinion, who got a lot of people here. I guess all three of us were on Paul some way. So let people who think Ron Paul did a great thing for this movement stay. Let the people who didn't go. I don't know what the numbers will be. I can't tell you that. I can tell you the right people will be in the right party, and we'll have the Ron Paul movement again. And then maybe the next step is to start taking over the GOP and say, hey, you got a lot of rhinos here. We'll help you clean it up, and then start taking over their things. And like my co-host Daniel suggested yesterday, why don't you take the people in the GOP who want decentralization, but not complete decentralization, take that vehicle and take the vehicle of Mises, the people who want complete decentralization, work together to achieve some level of that, and then keep going forward from there. That's what I think the result will be. I think a few hundred people will leave if I had to guess, and I see that's what we can do going forward to even make the vehicle more pertinent. I in my opinion, the real way to defeat the left is to take away their institutions, not just play Titanic and rearrange desk chairs in schools and the military and things like that. These institutions are corrupt because they're centralized, and if you get one person who's a bad actor in a central institution, turns the whole institution bad. You're not going to fix them. So the most important thing would actually be, after we win in Reno, which we will do, and people leave, to start actually taking over the GOP the same way and get rid of the, extreme Trumpers and neocons and work with the people who want decentralization. That's my long-winded answer.
Yeah, so I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I think I think we'll see around 20% of them probably kick rock shortly after convention. My guess is within a year that number's closer to 50%. The left, the libtard left side of the Libertarian Party is going to become mostly non-existent, in my opinion. They can't sustain what they've been doing, the grifting angle and it is grifting. It's just a different type of grifting. Like if you go on Facebook right now into those fucking groups, they're just grifting for reactions and likes instead of money. Like they're getting a fucking dopamine rush out of people recognizing their shit takes on Facebook and Twitter. Like the Aaron Goss post that we looked at a few days ago regarding his take on Ron Paul that we tore apart with Josh.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Or any of those people. They have no standing other than the little reactions that they get from their own little clique of 60 people that exist in a little bubble.
Which is ridiculous.
And so I think those people will probably stick around for as long as possible within the infrastructure as much as they can, gum up the works in a sense, but they'll have no power. And, the Nick Sarwarks of the world will never have any more power within the Libertarian Party for good fucking reason. And the Valerie Sarwarks of the world shouldn't have any power within the Libertarian Party for good reason. Those individuals especially need to get the fuck on their way.
You know what my
advice
is?
Go ahead.
My advice is, look, if you're committed to libertarian socialist ideas, pick up a book instead of just making random Ron Paul is this bad, that bad. Go read Bakunin. Go read Kropotkin. Go read actual anarcho-syn. And I've done this myself because I was just curious. I didn't want to actually espouse the philosophy, but I wanted to know what the heck is mutualism? What is anarcho-syndicalism is actually interesting to read. I don't completely agree with it.
With you on that. But I found it to be kind of, I don't know. That's a whole show.
but take those. Go read those books. Go read those ideas. Go to the Green Party or go to.
Be wrong, but you can read them.
But here's the thing. I would suggest if you hate Ron Paul in this, but you still want decentralization, read those books. Go to one of two things. The Green Party would love to take you. That's a lot of libertarian socialists. Or go to the Forward Party by Andrew Yang. I don't think Andrew Yang's a particularly bad person. I just think his economic takes are really, really poorly thought out. That's sorry.
I just retarded. Go ahead, CD. Your take.
No, I know I should have wrote it down. But we were talking about bringing the Ron Paul revolution. I think so as far as people leaving and staying, right. I think for everyone that has any type of position, whether, if for everyone that gets unseated, they're going to bring 3 people with them because their people below them are benefiting off of their position within the party, right. Whether that's at the county level or at national level. And you're going to see a lot of them say, well, if they're not going to be here, I'm not going to be here because they've been followed, So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of it. I would give it a full year because
that's why I said that.
I'm not convinced they wouldn't. I think they're capable of anything, so I'm not convinced that a lawsuit wouldn't come of Reno.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about.
So they will push back. That's what I'm trying to say. They will push back. And
from what research I've done on a legal angle, and this is something I do casually, not as a professional or anything, so it is what it is. But for what I've looked into, even if anything like that happened, they couldn't stop anything. They would just have to deal with a court case.
Yes.
And the only people that are going to fund that are these lawyer type idiots that are in the fucking leftist side of the LP and
trying to keep their power. They're trying to maintain their power. It's the thing we hate, and they're doing it. So I think you're both right, and I'm all for anyone that's not for the revolution to not be here anymore because that is the future. I was a child of Ron Paul, and that's what I thought a libertarian was. I didn't know until I got here in my 20s, and the LP is not, it's not what I thought it was, and I really want to make it what I envisioned.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're all kind of here for, is trying to make it better, That's ultimately the goal.
Back to principle, it's kind of like this. You go to a school of Jeet Kune Do and they say, oh, Bruce Lee isn't that important. We're not going to follow him. Well, he created it. What are you going to follow? And we're going to follow this guy who kind of does Taekwondo. I'm not going to say Taekwondo is a bad art, but probably Jeet Kune Do is more effective in a fight. Now, if you want to learn fancy kicks, you can. The free market. Yeah, there is a little something with your mic lane. But yeah, if you want to learn Taekwondo, that's fine. But you got
sound bad?
A little bit.
What's going on? Okay, give me 1 second.
But if you want to work on that, I'll keep going. But the whole idea is this: if you went to a Jeet Kune Do gym, which is just a martial art, you'd want to probably follow the teachings and philosophy of Bruce Lee. Same thing with anything else. If you want to go to any type of like school or anything like that after a particular philosophy, say if you wanted to learn ancient Greek, you probably want to do Plato and Aristotle. And someone's like, no, let's talk about like Friedrich Nietzsche. No, let's go with these guys and start with Socrates. It wouldn't make sense.
No.
Still a bit muffled.
That's what's going on. I'm gonna switch over my mics. Give me 1 moment.
Associate with the whole woke libertarian types in 2014. Crazy how there's still many of them still around that haven't grown out of it still. Yeah, well, to me, I'm not taking over. I'm just bringing stuff back to principle. And I've told them that. I'm not like being rude about it. I'm not like, haha, I'm taking their position that they worked away. I'm like, well, your position wasn't based on principle. You just wanted that position, but you weren't doing something with it. Do something with it. And they don't. So I'm just bringing things back to Ron Paul style, which is how I roll. And look, if you want to be a woke libertarian or a libertarian socialist, I'm not going to say you can't do it because, hey, as Ron Paul said, the nice thing about capitalism is that you can tolerate socialist ideas. If you want to go out in the woods with your friends, you want to do your commune, or you want to do this anarcho-socialist stuff, you're allowed. And I don't think it'll succeed because property theft is weird. But if you get enough people to agree to that, and you can get 20, 30 people, and I've seen farms kind of like that. Okay, do it like the Amish or something like that. But yeah, please get out of the party. Go to the Green Party. Go to the Forward Party. Go to like a Democrat Socialist type party. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to work with you. That would be my advice to all these people.
Did it change? If not, I'm gonna switch to a laptop mic.
It didn't change.
Unfortunately, no.
I don't know what's going on.
It was working fine.
Were you doing job interviews today, CD?
No. P. I forgot. I forgot where you ended.
Someone was just asking. Yeah, that's got technical difficulties.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Just remember that even though there's technical difficulties here, the government would make it a lot worse.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Yeah, I foresee we're going to get the party that we thought, that we always envisioned this year. My biggest concern at this point, like I know that this year's taken care of, but it's how do we make sure that the momentum doesn't fall back? So
well, once we have good leadership and once we have a good initiative that like, hey, these are the real Ron Paul ideals, I think we can pull people in much quicker. How do I know that? I'm not guaranteeing anything, but Tim Pool, he's like, I like the Mises types.
CD always dresses to impress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. But anyway, but yes, keep going. That's what I was going to say. Keep going. About momentum and like keeping it going after Reno.
Yeah. Well, the idea is we'll actually have like a vehicle we can use to now promote liberty, and it won't be milk toast anymore. So things like lockdowns come. They're going to try more stuff than this, by the way. I'll say the nice thing is if all the truthers there are right, which that always doesn't align with ANCAP stuff, but they're going to try some more. The elite are not done just because they got rid of some of them. There's still some mandates for healthcare workers, so we can fight that. But I'm sure they're going to try more goofy stuff. I don't know what it is yet. It could be energy, it could be food, could be climate change stuff. We have a good vehicle now where we can smack it down. The thing I got most upset in the Jorgensen campaign is we weren't hardcore. Like, these mandates are terrible. They're tyrannical. These governors are insane, and we need to fight back. They're just like, yeah, it's bad, but, it's not too bad. And it's like, we probably shouldn't do it. And I'm
right.
Cool.
They're just saying.
My laptop mic, so I want to make sure that I sound all right or good enough.
You sound good enough, but it still sounds like that.
Yeah,
so that's weird. Muffy. Do you think that you lost your mic, and it was already on that?
No, that's strange. I turn off I just turned off all of the default settings and everything. Did it change at all?
No.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not sure how to fix this then, really.
I blame Russia for it, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I can do on mine. Let me close out and come all the way back in. We'll see if it's better. You guys
blame it on Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about this first story. I'll go ahead and put this up on. Well, actually, it's going to close when I leave. Never mind. Go ahead and cover whatever you guys want to talk about, and I will be back in a minute. And
all right, deal.
Get back to things. We'll cover the news stuff.
Okay. Pause.
I was covering the WHO treaty yesterday.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about. That's what I was going to. Yeah, that was crazy.
Did you watch that show, Daniel?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So essentially, what they are saying is, see, like totalitarians back in the day are just like, we're going to conquer your land, which I'm not saying that's good. That's violating the NAP, but at least it's honest. Like, hey, we want your resources. You can't have it. Attila the Hun just conquers you. It's like, okay, fine. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you can either fight them off or lose. But now they use, we just want cooperation between global citizens and national governments. And, national governments just can't address all the problems that will come around, when things happen. We need a concerted initiative or something like that, a collective initiative, and they use words like that. So it's, that sounds good. They just want to handle diseases, but it could be anything they define. So they define what the pandemic is. A lot of people got sick here. How many died? Nothing, but it's still a pandemic. Okay, it could be the flu. Okay, 500 people got the flu here. 500 people got the flu in Canada. Pandemic. All right, well, now that we have it, we're going to appoint people who say, here's how it's going to go. On top of that, we're going to appoint the treatments we want for that. And that's the real scary thing. Like, okay, well, we just have central people saying, okay, these are the treatment protocols we want. These are the ones we don't. Now we have to decide who's going to get a medical procedure, as Luke Radowski would say, that the establishment wants you to take, if they want you to get it. So it takes total control. Like, you think COVID was bad. It takes total control even out of presidents and something, just says we're the sovereign. And the worst thing is, if 2/3 of the nation sign on to that, that's all they need. There's a lot of globalists out there. So you get the globalist leaders to sign on to that, saying, hey, we're doing the world a favor. And then they can sanction other countries that are like, this country wants to use natural remedies, or they want to use these vitamins or minerals, or they want to use this method. They want to use, you can pick anything you want. Or they want to use this naturopathic way of curing stuff. Well, we're going to sanction them. To me, that's an act of war. So yeah, the WHO treaty is a big problem. I think it's an even bigger problem than some of the things people are talking about in Europe. Not that it's an issue. So yeah.
And change?
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So can I tell you guys exactly what happened here? Because it's actually kind of funny.
Go.
So I have not listened back to the audio or exactly how bassy my voice was or what was going on, so I don't know exactly what it sounded like. But I have a software program called Voxel that I use when I play video games sometimes. It's a voice changer.
Vox.
And it turned itself on in the background because it's one of the things that auto starts when I start my computer. And so
Well,
it was
that
messing with my audio stream in the background. So I must have sounded pretty goofy. Did I sound like that for the whole thing?
Wasn't
no,
that
no.
bad, if I'm being honest. No, it was about like
Weird.
10 minutes in.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, cool. I'm glad we figured it out.
That's great. At least we know.
Yes.
Woo!
Yeah, so I guess we can hop into some news stories if you guys want to do that.
I'm ready.
We will cover some stock market stuff, including this one here by CNBC. Dow plunges more than 900 points for its worst day since 2020, fails for a fourth straight week. This is coming from Tanaya McKeel. That's a really tiny word for me to read with my horrible eyesight. Stocks plunged on Friday with the Dow Jones Industrial Average suffering its worst day loss since the throes of the pandemic, as the latest raft of corporate earnings and prospect of rising rates spurred a wave of selling. So, I guess the main takeaway from all of this is the stock market is capital F fucked. And has been for realistically the last 2 years. I pulled everything that I had in the stock market out because it kind of doesn't make sense to own stocks right now. If you're going to own something, and this is not financial advice, but I would suggest precious metals, cryptocurrency, or land. Emphasis on land, and then gold, silver, and then cryptocurrencies. I'm not one of these crypto bros. I think crypto's great and all, but ultimately dirt that's under your feet is always going to be the most valuable thing you can possibly own. Because eventually that'll all be fucking gone. So that's how I look at that.
You're going to take all the dirt.
Basically. Basically.
What
It would have
really
sounded better if I said gamer words. Oh shit. Let's keep going with the stream. We'll get there eventually. I dropped one yesterday, and I don't know if anybody caught it. It was in regards to Nick Sarwark.
Oh boy.
So you can imagine what word that was. Moving on. So the Dow fell 981 points. So that is significant.
Very. It's finally catching up with the inflation, though. You know, we're finally seeing it.
It's not just inflation. That's the thing. Is it's also just poor stock market earnings in general.
Oh yeah.
There's like a real uptick in the U.S. of people not liking to support independent or individual brands. So marketing everything that was done through things like ad spaces that we were used to seeing. This is radio and television and movies and things like that have changed. People are supporting smaller brands in a kind of increasing rate, to the point where I think a lot of these bigger companies that are conglomerates, that's why they're eating up so many of these small companies, is because they need to protect their long-term kind of income, including the fact that they have inflation, which they have to compete with on top of all that. So my guess is you're seeing both things happen at once. You're seeing the inflation finally start to catch up. At the same time, the market just isn't performing good naturally. I mean, you've just got the stuff that happened with Wall Street Bets and GameStop, and I reference that strictly because what we saw happen there with Robinhood and them pulling everything, that was systematically the stock market pretty much ran out of money for a minute. And I think people need to. I think
Stonks.
people recognized for a brief second that that was an option that could take place again. So I think there's a lot of lukewarm people in the stock market now that are pulling out stocks anyway
I
because they
just,
think the market's going to crash naturally regardless of inflation. So now it's like both those things working in tandem together. It's just fucked all together.
yeah, well, it shows to me that what I like about the stonks thing is that decentralized people don't even know each other with like weird names on Reddit can get together and actually pull a business up or save a business, and then they actually call them stonks. So
Hey man, those fucking people on those
our
other
Wall
people
Street
on
bets.
Twitter kicked ass. Because well, on Reddit, I mean, the people on Reddit were able to, in like a couple weeks' time, make a movement that was covered by basically every bit of media that existed at the time. I mean,
Yes.
every news channel had a story about that.
Yeah. Well, Leighton, you'll be okay. I like those NFTs behind you. Those NFTs.
Honestly, and this is gonna sound real fucking sad, but for their 401ks not to exist, for their own pocketbooks to be affected, for them to go broke, and that's sad, but ultimately that's kind of what has to happen for a lot of people involved in the stock market. Like, if they don't want to take
Mhm.
people's advice that are telling them to listen, then they're not gonna listen. Like, I can't take every person. Yeah. Well, here's the difference. Those Reddit nerds affected the market
Yeah.
almost immediately, and Occupy Wall Street long term didn't really do jack shit. So it's like, and there's a perfect example. Um, you know, Occupy Wall Street was a movement that was involving a bunch of different political groups that was completely overtaken by the left and failed miserably. In my opinion, because they didn't keep that base support from the other political organizations that were involved originally. Or just groups in general that were involved originally. But yeah, on the left in general with stock markets, I don't think there's any way to make them wake up. I mean, these people are absorbing content completely from the left, and when they do break through from the right, it's hardly in the world of stocks. It's in some political random issue that they care about.
Yeah.
As far as the market's concerned, there isn't really a way to stop somebody and get them to listen to you. You want a proof of that? Look at cryptocurrency. How many people were stopped by a buddy of theirs and told, buy cryptocurrency, you'll make millions of fucking dollars? They didn't listen. So, in the same way that those people wouldn't listen, leftists aren't going to listen when you tell them that the market's going to crash or that it's all built on bullshit. Um, all Occupy accomplished was to cause corps to cater to the left and lull them.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's 100% correct. I mean, that is what we saw take
Have
place
you seen
after
that
the fact,
comic
too.
Tim Pool has pulled up?
Mm-hmm.
It has a bunch of Occupy Wall Street people, and it has a guy, in an Occupy that says, "Hi, introduce them to identity politics," because that's kind of it came right after that, and I'm like, because actually, I'm not saying I'm a leftist. I was in the anarcho-punk movement before I was a libertarian, but the left, to their credit, used to be anti-war. They were very anti-Iraq back then, and I agree with them, and they were actually skeptical of big pharma, which was good. Um,
Right.
Not saying they were ever really good on economics, but economics is a specialized discipline. So that's fine. Not everybody, I'm not even great at it myself. I'm just learning. So, yeah,
Right.
I kind of wish you got more of the, you still had more of the Jimmy Dore, Bill Maher types at least. I get everybody's not going to be an ANCAP, and that's fine. But it would be nice to see the left be anti establishment again.
Mm-hmm.
At least in those respects.
The Fed always screws up. This forecaster sees inflation peaking in U.S. stocks in a bear market by summer. So I will talk a little bit about this because I think there's two things in particular I find interesting. First, C mentioned the fact that this guy's prospecting people go out and buy gold, and that's
Is
what
that
he's
Powell?
investing in. Um, Keith McCullough, McCullough,
McCullough.
McCullough,
McCullough.
Keith McCullough, founder and CEO of Hedgeye Risk Management has been bullish on gold, silver, and utilities since the start of the year when his investment research firm's economic models turned bearish on stocks and bonds.
Stop.
The defense move was the result of Hedgeye's models getting an early jump on a shift in the U.S. economic climate. The models noted slowing U.S. corporate earnings on a year-over-year basis and surmised that inflation was a near peak. The Federal Reserve waiting to raise interest rates because inflation was merely transitory. Transitory. And then tightening monetary policy directly into a slowdown is McCullough's a major policy mistake, and not surprising. The Fed always screws up, he says. Their policy is too tight, too late.
You know what's funny? I bet you Paul Krugman's like, well, it's just transitory. You know, listen to me. I'm a good economist.
So bullish on precious metals and utilities. I thought that was well, duh. I just love when we're right. I don't know. I just love when we're right. And so he said since the start of the year, his research firm, told him to be bearish on stocks and bonds. And I read the article. I'm like, again, that's not news. Like you could, like when you have growth and inflation slowing at the same time.
Inflation is trans. You heard it here first.
Is it male to female or female to male, Magoo?
Inflation looks like Brianna Coyle.
I love it. Yes. We need
that is a Top Lobster t-shirt.
We need t-shirts. Yes, I will buy that t-shirt. Yes. Yeah. But so go ahead.
We just need a like one of those graph bars of the market, and at the bottom it's just Brianna Coyle eating up the bottom part of the graph.
Oh my god. Left and front on one thing though with that.
You don't want it in the pool with your daughter. Okay.
Oh, fuck it.
So it's the bad kind.
No, men can menstruate. There's neocons out there, so they're correct.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is hilarious. I did actually see this. Jim Cramer telling everybody to buy Netflix. It's dude.
Gold.
Talk about posting your L. But that is the dude. Genuinely, I know lots of people on the left who get their market advice from that fucking fruitcake. And if you're doing that, then there's no saving you. I'm sorry, you've already decided you're not willing to make money.
Jim's funny though. He's like, oh, why don't they? We should
Jim
have
is a retard.
He's entertaining. He's entertaining.
We should have the military run the program, and if you don't like it, you have to have your conscience.
Jim Cramer is the Alex Jones of the stock market world.
Yes, but he's not right. But he's not right. Alex was right.
He's right sometimes. He's right sometimes.
Oh my god! But it's sometimes like his percentage is terrible. Yeah, do the opposite of what he says. Like JC said. Yeah, do whatever he says. Don't run away. Don't do
it. Shannon, you're up too late.
I know. Mom, you need to go to bed. I know. But so I just thought, he brought up being the.
Well, yeah, just look at his getup. He dresses like he's a working stockbroker. Like he's showing up every day to work the fucking computers. That dude walks in a room and is handed a script that's signed off by a board of people who want to make money off of those shares of stocks.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's been inadvertently pointed out blatantly over the past year, especially. But this has been known in the stock community for fucking 8-9 years at this point.
Right. Since, well, I mean, I think everyone knew by 2009 that we were going to have another 2008 eventually. That's all the smart people saw that it's over for now. But
well, if I had to predict, if the leftists lose the election in 2024, which I think we all think they will, whether it's a Republican who wins or a Libertarian, whatever the case may be, chances are we're going to see a DeSantis or a Trump in office in 2024. I think that's what most people assume. Assuming that, is the leftist response in the corporate world going to be to purposely tank the market so that this recession happens quicker as soon as a Republican takes office? And that is what I think is probably going to happen. If I were to predict it and use my hocus pocus, I'd say that we're going to see a Republican take office in 2024, and within a year's time, the market crashing in 2008 or worse ways.
I don't think the left will engineer it, though.
I think they will. I think they'll do exactly what they're doing right now. They will put debt. They will put debt onto the Ukrainian people, so that when they eventually are done with this war, they can use it to pay off China slowly and surely, and they will use that to fend off this economic issues that they're going through long enough to get through the election term. I mean, they can do that. They've been fending off this inflation for fucking how many years? You think they can't do it for 2 more? You know, fucking slap a Band-Aid on it, print a couple more of those gold coins that he wants to do, or platinum or whatever the fuck that thing was supposed to be made of, and problem solved. If they do that long enough to get through until the election, I know it's not problem solved. There's a whole lot of numbers and bullshit, and I could get into all that, but I'm not going to. The fact is like, we all understand that they could do that. Like, they could Band-Aid the situation long enough to stick it with whoever comes into office, and then act as though it's all on them. He's the Louis C.K. of finance. So I have so many deep fakes on my laptop of him as Louis C.K. just doing stand-up that we used to share in group chats where I talk about like crypto and shit. And I've got like 20 of those deep fakes.
Dear God, dude.
Except he doesn't ask permission before he does something that should be embarrassing.
My question is, aren't Republicans good at tanking? They're like, oh, hey, we're not like them socialist Democrats. We love America. Hey, Powell wants you to print $7 trillion for whatever reason. Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Just the thought of Jim Cramer's beady red bald head on the other end of a Zoom call, just yelling and screaming because he can't get his audio to work while he faps. He's fumbling around like I was just doing, except he's doing it one-handed. Constantly kicking the can down the road, live comfortably and screw the next generation. These are our leaders. Yeah, pretty much. That about sums it up. They don't want to get anything done. They want to pass it on to the next person. And, you know, you have a sense of people like, I'll take in the name like somebody like Ron Paul, who, you know, in his farewell speech said that he wasn't able to do everything he wanted to do and that there wasn't much actual change over the time that he was involved in government, right? So when he passes through, he goes through and puts somebody like in his place that can do some real work in his absence when he left. If there was a generation of politicians who were doing that, we might be in a very different world. But unfortunately, the politicians, as soon as they do something that the government defines distasteful, they can pretty much just remove those politicians and put new ones in power. So they don't have any ability either. I mean, we pretend like the government is completely useless from a political angle, but politicians do have some power to do good things if they can. But I do think the government does everything they can to stop those people from doing it.
Here's the thing, though.
What the fuck? If Shannon and David are up at the same time, then I feel like, he can't even be wine drunk while he watches the show. Like, this seems like a complete cheat.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit. But, you always have politicians. I have never, ever, ever seen any politician get an Austrian for, like, an advisor, ever. You know why? Because they'd be like, oh, you need to think of the long term. They're gonna
so he fucked it all up. You fucked it all up. Every time I think of Austrians, I think of a German accent. There's no way to get that out of my head. And I know they have nothing. Bruh, fine, I'll leave.
No, David, no, don't leave. Okay, well, I have something to say on that. I think that the Republicans are just not gonna change anything. I think they're just gonna keep doing the same shit that they've been doing, which is nothing. And so they're just gonna keep fucking it up. Like, and then they'll just be like, well, we had the stock market crashed. Like, they would honestly probably like that a lot, because then they can push everything on Democrats that came before them 2 years ago, and it's their fault, and then they're gonna
right. But okay, so here's the thing, though.
What?
That is successful for both of them, because the Republicans will blame it on the Democrats who were in parties 2 years before. The Democrats will blame it on the Republican president who just got into office, and we'll be right back at square one in the 2008 position. So I think the libertarian goal needs to be to call out that is probably what's going to take place.
Okay. You're right.
I guess that would be my perspective on it, is like, if we warn people that that's going to take place, I know they don't fucking listen, but at least we're on record saying that's what's going to fucking happen here. They're going to stick this on whoever they want to stick it on strategically. And it really comes down to whoever strategically they can stick it on. It's like, it's whoever's going to be fine. They might just throw it on Biden before he leaves office to fuck him, which is very possible. But I also think it's possible that the real crash doesn't take place until after the 2024 election, which is, I think, what I'm leading to.
Yeah, because we need this housing market to go through its cycle, like as we have it now. David, I'm glad you're here. Anyway, and now I lost my train of thought.
It's David's fault.
But we were talking about parties, right?
Yeah, we were talking about the presidency and like stock market crashes
and how they're going to blame it all on him. Yeah, everything wrong in 2 years. Oh, how it takes a minute. The housing market has to
readjust.
Readjust. And then you're going to, and then because credit and equity is all messed up right now. It's absolutely upside down. So whenever that starts to kind of correct itself is when you're going to see a complete bottom out.
Well, here's what.
This is good right here. They can't run Biden or Kamala. What do you think will happen in 2024? This is something I've been talking about on the channel. The Democratic Party is going to pick somebody completely new. They are not going to run Bernie. They are not going to run Biden. They're not going to run Kamala. They're probably going to run some Democratic representative or governor or senator, somebody that is present but not very well known, and most likely young. The opposite of Biden. They're going to go establishment young or socialist young, one of those two angles. I don't think they'll use Mayor Pete Butt stuff because he's already been branded by Trump. He has no way of... They're going to pick somebody new, meaning somebody who hasn't run in the last 15, 20 years. And the Republicans are going to respond with Trump and DeSantis. Trump and DeSantis are going to run off as far as their goals go. And my guess is that out of the two of them, you might actually see DeSantis win. The reasoning behind that is the Republican establishment is going to want to back the sane candidate. And they're going to do that through DeSantis. DeSantis will play ball with Israel just as hard as Trump was willing to. He'll play ball with the Saudis just as hard as Trump was willing to. He'll continue bombings in other countries because he doesn't know anything about the fucking military. And ultimately, his presidency will be one that will be known as being very economically stable, because I have a feeling he will begin to hopefully chop through some areas that the government hasn't been affected in a very long time. And I think DeSantis is probably more likely to do that than Trump, from like the Federal Reserve areas, stuff like that. Mainly because I think this is another issue, is DeSantis's economics and stuff like that might not be as good as Trump's. Trump, like, seemed to do pretty good economically. He did it through really fucked up means, but he did do it. Like the economy was doing better in the sense of your gas was cheaper and things like that were cheaper. Obviously, the inflation rates and all that was still fucked, but the things people notice were better, right? And so, Obama, that's what everybody always said. Obama's gas prices went through the roof, right? Everybody sees that. So I think my prediction would be that ultimately Kamala or Biden doesn't run, a new Democrat runs, and they're going to be running against Trump or DeSantis.
They're not going to run against DeSantis. I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. He's not running for president.
I'm gonna say this. I think it's entirely possible he doesn't, and I'll say this. The way he has handled media is good for Florida. It could also be good for a presidential run. I think he's leaving it open because he wants to see what the Republican reaction to Trump announcing his running is. And my guess is if DeSantis is going to run, he will not announce his running until after Trump announces his.
Absolutely. And I think he's going to stay governor of Florida, and he's going to tell, former president, future President Trump, that he and Florida are there to stand by him.
That would be the smart play.
And I'm telling you, I think he's a smart guy, and I think the people he surrounds himself with are even smarter, and they know that. If they're going to run for president, then it needs to be 28. He needs all of his tenure in Florida first. He doesn't need to.
I want to address what David Brady's saying here.
Oh.
I don't disagree with you on any of this. Like, I've looked into the market as far as the stability of it all, and it is fucked. The Austrian perspective has been correct on that always, and it's never been wrong on the fact the market is in a perpetual fucked state. But the truth is, we all know that the government and the Fed especially does some nefarious shit behind closed doors. And if they want to paralyze this or kind of dole it out and frame it so that this does not happen until a strategic point, they 100% can. If they wanted to do that, there's methods they could use with market manipulation to make it so the market almost ran as a ghost until they wanted it to drop out from under people. And I think that's what people need to be looking at as a real possibility. And timing-wise, it makes sense, right? They don't want to drop the market out from under everybody while we're in some kind of quote-unquote war with Russia. They want to do it when a new president is coming in and that whole blame cycle can come along so that there's no real blame attributed. And they can just act like it's all of everybody's fault, which is exactly what they did in 2008.
I have a question with all this. Is it not possible that actually there is some peaceful divorce before all of these scenarios come together? Because I'm really
No, that's never going to fucking happen. I wish it would.
We want that. I would love that.
I'm actually convinced at certain points people will say just we can't. Because it doesn't.
Everybody's talked about AOC possibly running for president. That's impossible. Anybody over 30 will not vote for her, and there's just not enough. There's not enough votes to go around. It doesn't make sane sense for the Democrats, and I think she's too known. Again, I think they're gonna pick somebody who's never been memed on, who's outside of the spotlight. That's gonna be hard for Trump to target. That's gonna be their goal.
Think Trump will be in 2024.
I think he will be absolutely.
Trump would not be.
Trump would not be.
I have a reason.
Trump would not be touring and going to the states that he is, the areas that he is, getting involved in investments like he is with different campaign supporters. He's doing everything somebody does before he runs. Very similar to what DeSantis has been doing only in Florida. But DeSantis hasn't moved that outward. DeSantis could very easily move that outward if he wanted to, and I think that's why he's keeping it on the back burner.
I still don't. Yeah, I know he's doing all that, but I still don't think so.
AOC OnlyFans account.
Let's just point it this way. If doctors,
if there was an OnlyFans of AOC, would you look at it? Like,
yes,
I'd have to look at it, right?
Yeah. I just want to use somebody else's password. I don't even want to log. I don't even want my own login.
Yeah, I'll borrow David's and we can get on there with that one.
Deal. We'll all share it.
We'll all share. We'll fucking Netflix password share David Brady's OnlyFans account. This is the way.
No.
It's the Liberty Circle Jerk. Welcome.
Oh my God.
Dude,
oh boy.
that actually might be a good name for the Monday show. The Liberty Circle Jerk?
The
Liberty Circle Jerk?
Stop. Is that
Yeah,
like stealing? Oh, shit.
Oh. We'll tell you when you're older.
You're not old enough for that yet. Absolutely.
So
not.
I've heard. So yeah, there's a lot of. This is what 4chan thinks is going on. By the way, I don't think they are trolling. David, cover your ears.
Business, dude.
It's already late, and now they're talking about OnlyFans. Fucking run!
Right? We're gonna get him in trouble. His mama's gonna come in there and be like, "What are you listening to?"
Netflix share David Brady's OnlyFans account.
Mom, I don't have an OnlyFans account. Okay, I swear. Sorry, David Brady's mom. We're corrupting your son.
It's been hilarious looking at the reactions to the kind of Trump Biden and who's gonna run and that whole mess. It's something I think is talked about a lot, but not in the regards that I mean. I don't have an OnlyFans account. I'm not that broke.
I'm not that broke.
No, you're that broken. But
he's so young to be so broken.
Oh God. It's like I feel like people in the liberty space and comedians get along so well because of that reason. We're all fucked up.
Yes, because we got exposed to all this way too young. Way too young.
I'm the only non-groomer in here. Fucking goddamn it.
Wow.
Are we gonna get in trouble?
Dude, that's a fucking Magoo joke.
Oh, boy.
Don't listen
Okay.
to my friends. Shit.
They're all
Shout
insane.
out to David Brady over at the Road to Providence. Go listen to his show. He has cool guests on.
He had me on.
Yeah, he's had CD on. He has not had me or Kareem on because his podcast is not actually real. But if you want to go listen to his show, it's over on the Road to Providence YouTube channel.
The worst shameless plug I've ever heard. Ever.
The Road to Providence in Rhode Island, because if it's not legit.
He's not in Rhode Island. He's in Minnesota.
He's in Minnesota. He's over there in Big Nose, Nick Ricadaville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well.
Yeah, no, that's my I have to visit that area. I haven't been up to that area of the U.S. yet. He may not have a soul, but he does have a podcast. Fucking Magoo. That's perfect.
What's it like to be hated by everybody?
Bad ginger joke.
It was not bad. I thought it was funny.
Oh God.
My opinion's the only one that matters here, so
yes,
carry
absolutely. Yeah. I think that's how being a woman works, right?
Right. I just said what's funny and what's not.
Yes, so this is awesome. And I want to talk about this briefly. I have been trying to get crossover stuff with Ricada and Libertarians for like a year in his fucking chat. The amount of $20 donations and fucking like nights drinking whiskey talking to that dude about some of this stuff. So it is really cool to see me, to see him get it going on shows. Specifically, I know another person in the Libertarian space who's also got in contact with him, but he is going to be on with David Brady eventually. I don't know dates and stuff, but that is super exciting, and I'm definitely going to be in the chat for that one. Dropping heat. Switch around some letters in Ginger. Oh. This became the David Brady roast. Yeah. Well,
It's
no.
over.
So, the David Brady roast was like a month ago on Twitter, and then it was over.
Yeah.
This is the David Brady plug/joke roast kind of in between, somewhere in there. I guess we will look at this story here. This was pretty fucked and interesting. But man dies after setting himself on fire in front of the Supreme Court. Police say. I love police say. I thought the fire said, because there's no. I have a question, and this is a question for everyone. What could you mistake somebody lit on fire for? Like, what are you gonna mistake that for? Like, I don't know how to word the question, but how do you?
No, he's just playing with fireworks.
I'm too
right?
He's
Yeah,
in front of the bush.
So he's gonna have Vercade on next month. So that's cool.
Awesome.
So he has a big stream next month, and I have a big stream next month. I've got the trial of Brendan Schaub's stream coming up here.
Oh, cool.
That I've been putting together. So that's gonna be fucking awesome, man.
That's
it makes me so happy to.
Anarchy.
You know what? It makes me see. It makes me happy to see like a bunch of this like younger podcasts, not necessarily younger people, but younger podcasts in general. They're like, it's fucking cool hangouts, like the chats that I go in and stuff. I've been just bouncing around places. Adam Kokesh went up in flames. Yes, yeah. After a fake weed protest, he decided to light up for real.
Make weed legal in Colorado.
Leighton's trying to suck harder at reading the dance spots with the System is Down podcast.
You can't suck at reading worse than Dan Smots. Dan Smots can't read.
I've never seen
Dan
that.
Smots
Can
cannot
he
read.
actually not
Yeah,
read?
you can. You can be Joe Biden.
So I have a friend of mine who can't read. I can, but I taught myself for the most part.
President
so I'm not
can't
very good
read,
at
so
it.
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I can write a lot better than I can read.
The thing.
Yeah, the thing. Y'all know.
You know the
what I'm
thing.
talking about.
Some environments send care packages. Others light themselves on fire. They are not the same. Some environmentalists. Sorry, I read that wrong. Some environmentalists send care packages. Others light themselves on fire. They are not the same.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing. It is self-immolation. Self-immolation is I understand.
Lit as fuck.
Yeah, I don't like. I just feel like there has to be something broken about your brain for you to like decide. And like, I don't know if you're not eating enough.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, every time I get peckish, I feel like lighting myself on fucking fire. CD, Jesus fucking Christ! Yeah, I'm sure he's just a little fucking hungry. He got hangry and decided to light himself on fire. What the fuck are we talking about?
He was a Buddhist, and they like don't eat.
I don't give a fuck.
Do Buddhists eat food?
Be the carbon you want to replace in the world. Fuck me.
Fire.
Oh, shit.
When?
Well, Dan Smots should have been raised in the wilds of Alaska. He was only allowed to watch Veggie Tales. Oh my fucking god. I was a Jew growing up. We didn't have Veggie Tales. That's some Bible thumping bullshit right there. Dude, I'm just picturing it. Man, I could really go for a sandwich right now. As it lights himself up.
Oh my god, he's Buddhist, and so I was like, man, maybe he like starved himself for way too long, and then things.
He was like, well, there's not much left of me anyway.
I know I can get hangry, you know, so I get it. Maybe
I don't get it. I'm sorry. If you were hungry, dude, I'm just thinking about like the equivalent of that, what you would have to be mentally to get to that point. I mean, like, man, I haven't had weed in like three fucking days. I gotta kill myself. Like, what the fuck is happening?
So, I don't know, but I don't know what like you.
Veggie Tales was indoctrination to get kids to fuck cucumbers.
Yep.
Probably was, but it's not by Disney.
And you can tell that to Dan Smuts. Eat a Snickers bar.
That's what I would have told
You're not yourself when you're fucking burning.
Maybe you went.
No, okay.
Dude's on fire, screaming. Somebody walks up with candy.
Fire.
But the craziest part about this whole story is that that's the same day that shooter that like shot 4 people randomly in Washington D.C. So in the same within hours of each other, huh?
Was he hungry too?
Yeah,
probably, dude. Right, he looks insane. He wasn't eating the right food, you know.
Like
what is his?
DC is under attack. But at least it wasn't January 6th, because that was the real insurrection.
Yeah.
It was worse than
it'll never
Civil
be worse.
War.
Nothing could ever be worse.
There was some guy actually with like Ukraine. He's like, at least it's not January 6th.
He was serious?
Yeah, some guy was making that joke, but it was funny.
Wow. But yeah, no, I just thought it was crazy.
Pizzagate guy was hungry.
I'm just saying, guys. I was really trying to rack my brain. I'm hungry.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Larry the Cucumber was handpicked by Robbie Swamp. Maybe they gave him a Snickers without the dick vein, and he just said, "You know what? Fuck it." Yeah. Dude, the dick vein Snickers story, man. It's all too close together. It's all correlated. Pizzagate, the whole thing.
But wait, how do you know he set himself on fire? You're not a fireman.
Stephen Paddock just hated country music. Jesus Christ.
How do you know he's on fire? You're not a fireman.
Dude's like rat tat 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 from the fucking window, going like, "Fuck you, Keith Urban." Dude, I have a question though. If who's that fucking if the guy who shot up Stephen Paddock, if the guy who shot up people in Vegas had killed the country singer, what's that fucking dude's name that Tom Segura's always shitting on? Oh fuck, I'm forgetting the guy's name. Oh man.
Okay.
There's a fucking country singer. This dude's actually fucking psychotic. I went on a deep dive of Garth Brooks. Fucking Garth Brooks.
Yeah, he is.
The least he could have done is have gotten that psychotic fuck off the streets. Go online and look up the fucking compilations of Garth Brooks cringe. It is amazing.
That sounds amazing. That does sound amazing.
Oh fuck. Jason Aldean was on stage. Yeah, I knew that guy. Where are the bodies, Garth?
So
where
Garth
are
Brooks,
the bodies?
In the early years of his career, he did this album under the name Chris. Someone's gonna put it in the chat. Chris. I think it started with a D. Anyway, and like it was the cover is, it's almost, if you can imagine Garth Brooks emo, that's what it looks like. And his hair was like all in his face, and then and it was terrible. I mean, it was absolutely awful. It was his approach to pop, I think. And
just thinking of that makes me full body cringe,
dude.
I believe it.
It's bad. It's just bad. And so I guess like the label told him, no, you're never gonna do this. You're only ever gonna do country. Don't come to us with this shit. ever again. Yeah, Chris something.
Oh,
but
Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines, that's
Holy
it.
fucking shit.
See?
Tell me this fucking human. 1 second, I'm putting this up on screen. Tell me this cocksucker doesn't look psychotic even then.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this shit? This guy always looked like a crazy person.
Yes.
This is like a Marilyn Manson wannabe headshot that
That's
I'm looking at right here.
I know.
We're gonna stop talking about fucking guys burning themselves because I think that story's pretty self-evident. He was just hungry.
Yeah, grab a Snickers.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. Look at this. Look at emo Garth Brooks. Look at this fucking retard. I'm sorry, but this is so great.
He was trying to be Trent Reznor, but it was
No shit.
But it was awful. But it wasn't good.
That guy rolls up on you. What do you do?
What up?
Jesus Christ. Dude, it makes me think this guy's way more of a serial killer than I already did. This is great. Fucking.
That's kind of fun.
No, the Garth Brooks serial killer rabbit hole goes deep. That guy's psychotic.
Apparently.
I have to. Yeah, that's awesome. I have to go find it. I wouldn't. I would believe it. No problem. He's insane. He's insane.
Is that the new Batman? Fucking,
Yeah.
I just started watching the new Batman
Matt
movie,
Robertson.
and oh my god, is that trash? I'm so fucking pissed. Some people told me that movie was worth watching, and I'm so disappointed in them.
It is
I
worth
wasn't
watching.
that good.
You're the only
I
one
am
that doesn't like it.
20 minutes through, and I think it's
first Leighton.
trash.
We'll do Leighton movie reviews.
I am 22.
Leighton doesn't like any movie. No movie is
No,
good enough.
actually, that's not true. I like classic movies. I think bullshit movies that are made today are trash.
I liked it
And
too.
We
David
need
Brady.
Kubrick back.
Kubrick.
Yeah, so your mom house is gold, and they have done the trolling Garth Brooks things for like years now. It's just hilarious.
We have to
Late
check it
night
out.
with Leighton. No, this is not late for me. It's only like 7:30 here. It's late for all these fuckers.
Yeah.
And that's because they're not on an ice field in the middle of nowhere. Well,
Probably that.
I'm on a bunch of trees.
But I don't know, man. Once I'm over in Florida, it'll be easier for me to visit people eventually. Once I do eventually move. I'd rather be the guy in the Barney suit than a pop singer. No wonder they go crazy. Did you see Kim Jong walk off stage during The Masked Singer?
What?
So Kim Jong, the comedian, the Asian dude from The Hangover.
Oh.
There's a show called The Masked Singer.
Yeah, I'm a big
Giuliani
Yes.
was on The Masked Singer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Kim
He did
Jong
walk off.
walked off.
Kim Jong walked off.
And everybody's shitting on him. I'm like, I'm kind of okay with that. That's kind of cool. I'm
Yeah.
like, I hate him too.
Yeah, I
I'm
hate
like,
him
this
too.
is cool.
I don't know who this dude is.
But it was so I guess I didn't pay attention to what you were saying about Jen, but he's I love The Masked Singer, for the record. It is a guilty pleasure of mine. I won last year. I totally picked the winner. I was excited. And
David does have a good point here. That might be a good show name. Late Night with Leighton. Something like that. I want to come up with I want to split the shows eventually, because the Monday stream is going to have a way different kind of energy than the rest of them. The Monday stream is going to be more of a big panel.
Yeah, you're going to be an ANCAP man and ANCAP stan.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You got to bring Jack.
Oh, God. I'm not going to lie. I thought Kim Jong was the North Korean dictator's name. Well, it is. But it's also a shitty comedian's name.
Yes. Yes.
One of them walked off last year, too, because of a politician. I wasn't aware of that, but I'll have to look up that. Maybe we'll watch those 2 clips on the show tomorrow.
We cool.
That might be fun. I guess we could cover a little bit of this last story here, which is the EU social media shit.
Yes. We need to cover that.
As much as David Brady might want us to talk about people getting killed in Vegas. Sick fuck.
Yeah, moida.
You talk about that. You talk about all that on your show, David Brady.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it
we
on this
definitely
one.
we don't do mature content.
Yeah, we don't.
here.
Yeah. Where the fuck you
This
think
is
you
a
are?
Christian. This is a Christian
Yeah.
fucking live stream.
Yeah.
What is wrong
What's
with
wrong
you?
with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at
We'll
us.
bring Bill Weld on to
Shit.
talk about it. He's good.
Yeah,
He's a
well-
Raytheon lobbyist and a libertarian somehow.
I'll make sure to get a hold of fucking Popular Liberty or whatever the fuck his name is and ask him.
No, don't. You have
EU
24 hours. Don't.
Yes, I have.
Video on it.
2 masks.
It's great. There's a ton of shit that I could definitely talk about there, but I'd have to do like a deep dive and write everything out. If I do conspiracy stuff, I have to have some kind of not script, but like guideline.
I'll help
Otherwise,
you
I
out.
get lost in the sauce.
I watch Alex Jones and David Icke quite a bit.
As long as you have live chat, the show is called Derailed. Those are the best shows.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry, but they just are.
Jesus.
He doesn't
Juice.
live stream his show, and it derails often. So that's my
Yeah,
call to kind of
it's a good
for sure.
point. Jews for Jesus, boys.
The Radner Experience. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, fuck off. Not doing that. EU takes aim at social media's harms with landmark new law. The Digital Service Act would force Meta, Google, and others to combat misinformation and restrict certain online ads. How European officials will wield it remains to be seen. And if there's any question as how they will wield it, look into the eyes of this individual. They are gonna fucking wield it hard and fast. That is the face of somebody who wants to fuck you with laws and a strap-on.
Yes.
At the same time.
He's good at
What do you
it.
think of my legislation? Move to.
And that's gay Rand Paul.
Oh, yeah, look at him.
Ron is so fabulous, fighting for freedom.
Dude, oh my god. The European Union reached a deal on Saturday on landmark legislation that would force Facebook, YouTube, and other internet services to combat misinformation, disclose how their services amplify divisive content, and stop targeting online ads based on a person's ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. The law, called the Digital Service Act, is intended to address the social media's societal harms by requiring companies to more aggressively police their platforms for illicit content or risk billions of dollars in fines.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Just to look at what it is, and it forces them to disclose how their services amplify divisive content and targeting online ads are based on people's shit. Okay, so that means, that means they have to hire more people for just Europe, right? So it's just Europe.
Right.
And then they talk and divisive content. What is that? And ultimately, what this thing does is it takes away the power for the power of the corporation, the company, to regulate itself. And they're touting this. They're touting this like this is an accomplishment.
Yep.
And
well, I think this has kind of been the plan from the government angle on the American side too. It's to bastardize social media as completely negative, so that they can come in and use kids and children and women.
Well,
their normal tactic of protect the kids.
Because you can use misinformation for anything. Misinformation could be, oh, Macron is not doing as well against Le Pen. That's misinformation. Oh, this candidate here that we like, our establishment candidate's not doing too well. Oh, he really is. Misinformation. So you just keep moving the ball down, and you're like, okay, this is misinformation. This is misinformation. Saying this is misinformation. Saying anything about what's going on in Europe that isn't the exact narrative is misinformation. Saying anything that you don't like is misinformation. So you can just use misinformation to wield,
Right.
like they're saying, power. Yeah.
Well, and I think, whenever we're looking at laws and legislation like this, especially with social media, it just boils down to they are a private company. Like, do we want them making decisions on those
Are they a
things?
private
And
company?
I don't.
Wait.
To an extent, in a way, I think this is the argument I'll make. I don't think they're a private company in the sense of, grocery store, mom and pop place like that. I do think they have some different classifications and things that never have been seen before, right? And so they need to be looked at a little bit differently. But I think we also had to be careful with taking the ability for them to operate as some form of private company away from them. Because if you do that and you let the government be the thing that replaces them, then you are right back to square fucking one, except you have somebody who doesn't have to be profitable, who can do what they're doing with Twitter right now. So I think we have to be really fucking careful as libertarians, and I consider myself to be an ANCAP, so this is an area that I actually do care about. It's like, we have to be really careful about how we move forward there, because we can kind of run headfirst into a pretty nasty trap from a government perspective.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then
there's no going back.
No.
Because once they have that legislation on the books, you're fucked. They will do that with every social media platform, whether it's libertarian free speech or anything.
So there's 230 new employees for enforcement for this, and that's within the companies, which is not enough at all to scan the entire platform. But one thing I thought was super interesting down further is it says Google will be required to stop the spread of illegal content.
Yeah.
What?
Which is exactly, so then
What
they can
is
hold them
illegal
liable. They can
content?
slap fines on them
I don't know, Kareem.
for every. They'll
I
be
don't
able
know.
to slap fines on them for every individual.
I'm not
quote,
I'm not an
unquote,
illegal
happenstance.
content specialist, so I don't know.
Yeah, or no, I do extremist content. Oh, thank you very much. Whatever happened to that band?
Running into a nasty trap is what libertarians are into. Stop bringing up Brianna Coyle, damn it.
Good night, David Brady.
We're bringing up Adam Kokesh.
Night. Sleep tight. Don't let inflation bite.
Right?
Yeah. Mine
So,
anyway.
but that part was troublesome. And then annual risk assessments. So there's going to be an auditor that comes in from the government to make sure that you are in fact trying to.
So here's all you should need to hear.
Yeah.
This will be a model. Alexandria Geese. That's a fucking horrible name. A Green Party member of the European Parliament from Germany said of the new law. Miss Geese, who helped draft the Digital Service Act, said she had already spoken with legislators in Japan, India, and other countries about the legislation. So here's the things that should scare you. Germany and Green Party. And for this instance, European Parliament. So fucking all of it.
Question with all this: what happens if Elon Musk? People have debated this. What happens if Elon Musk buys Twitter and they're doing all these laws? How does that affect everything? Because people, I'm sure, these countries are using them.
Have a nice night, Shannon. Take it easy.
I think that it's a preemptive. This is preemptive for that. Like starting this in Europe with the EU.
Well, that's what they do.
And
Just because of Elon Musk?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily because of Elon Musk specifically, but I think that they are definitely trying to hold on to the narrative as tightly as they can. So,
yeah. Well, I think things like this have been in action long before Musk came about.
Right.
I think his involvement is probably a reaction to things like this behind the scenes being realized.
Right.
So I think that we expected this stuff to happen, and they like to test it in other countries before they bring it over here. It seems obvious to me that would be something they'd want to do. You know, we can ask Garth Brooks what he thinks. You know, I think he looks very determined to get to the bottom of inflation and the problems with the Fed.
God.
He looks like he's gonna kill the Federal Reserve harder than he's gonna kill you or anyone else around you or his family or the guy he meets on the street.
Man.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Elon feels like a new version of Trump selling hopium to the dissidents, then bait and switch. So, yes and no. I agree with you to an extent. I think Elon is not as powerful as he thinks or everybody around him probably thinks, because I don't think money is as useless as people think, or as useful as people think now.
Yeah, really.
We are in an era of power, and that is something that Elon doesn't have a ton of. He has, a business that's successful. He has jobs and things he can market to states. But on a federal level, he doesn't have really much going for him. And he's paid back debts to the feds, so they don't have a connection to him in that way. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's not as bad as Trump. Absolutely not. He seems to be pretty pro-free speech in most of the areas he's talked about publicly. But I would say that, and Trump certainly isn't, but I would say that we will probably see over the next 2 years whether he's really about making change or whether he's just a businessman. And we'll see that soon. We're not going to know that now. He's just now getting involved in this. In a year, if he owns some of these companies and is trying to affect things in a positive way, then I'm all for that. If he's not, then we'll know that he's a fake and a fraud and a phony.
My only criticism of this is not that like he's a good businessman or not. It's that instead of buying Twitter, Gab is trying to compete, and I think Gab does a decent job, and so does Float. And
Gab is bullshit. Here's the thing, though.
Come on, man.
No, Gab
and Twitter are echo chambers to me.
Getter is the same thing as Gab. There's no difference. I'm sorry. The thing is, Gab is a place for extremist ideologies. That's what it's become.
Extremist
ideologies. Those are the only... That's truth. That's the only groups that go on there. It's ANCAPs, it's ANCOMs, it's rightists that are on the far right, far left. That's what you have on those platforms. They cannot populate normally. He can't buy one of those platforms and transform it in the way he can Twitter. Twitter has a mixed base. It has people from all these ideologies. It's not, though. It's not. Really? If you actually look at the numbers, if you look at the numbers of political ideologies on Twitter, there's plenty of Republicans present on the platform. There's plenty of libertarians present on the platform.
A few.
Last I looked at, I believe Republicans made up around 30%. That's a pretty big portion of the platform. So they have to have a successful social media platform has to have all those people in one congregated area. Otherwise, you end up with Gab, or you end up with Getter, or you end up with Maize, or you end up with many of these platforms that don't really do what it is they claim to do.
I think they can with the right. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. They can with the right, but they can't with anybody else, and those people aren't going to those platforms.
They can with the, what I was going to say is not with the right, political thing.
Gabbing by the pussy.
Here's the thing. Gabbing by
the Yeah, and you are correct, JC. Gab, Getter, and Parler all seem like honeypots. Yep.
Mark Zuckerberg.
And they structurally are.
If
you've ever used the apps, they're just copies of what Twitter is doing with an echo chamber filter added onto it.
Kind of.
That's all those sites have done.
Zuckerberg admitted himself that if it wasn't for the CEO of Napster,
Facebook doesn't count.
Okay, but even with that, it does in a sense, because they got a venture capitalist to propel them from.
Yeah, but the truth is the majority of users on Facebook that are active are old people that aren't using the other social media platforms.
I mean, you got me on here with Facebook, so, I mean, we're not necessarily old people. I mean, sometimes I feel like that, because I've been working out more. But still, my point is this. If the right venture capitalist got involved with Float, Maize, Odyssey, even. There's things I don't like about that. But and Gab, they might be able to help these platforms grow in the sense that they could attract more people who aren't from the fringe. I get there's fringes, and I do like the fringes, but I do want to see alternative platforms go. So if you're like, Facebook put me in jail, Float's not putting me in jail. Oh, Twitter banned my account for I don't know why. Well, Gab's not banning. Gab and Getter have never banned my account for saying anything.
Right. Here's the thing, though. Well, Getter did ban one of my accounts for saying things, and they banned other people and removed posts from other people.
Can you not say Groiper, I guess, on there?
No, you can't say that. You can't criticize Israel. You can't criticize all that shit. They will take you off the platform.
Really?
Yeah.
And as far as Gab is concerned, Gab is to me a perfect example of a platform that is useless in most senses of the word. You have a platform that is claiming to be pro-free speech, which they are, but the second you log on to Gab, you are only going to be introduced to a very small numbers of core ideologies. And that is exactly antithetical to having a free speech platform. If a free speech platform is to exist in a libertarian way that I look at as being, cohesive to the movement, then it needs to be something that includes all ideologies and anybody who wants to come onto the platform. Gab does that, but they don't market it that way. Gab isn't out there marketing to the left. They're not out there marketing to liberals or to libertarians, even for that matter. They cater to one specific group of the political realm, and that's conservative Republicans.
And then they get the title of white supremacist.
Right,
like
and then
whenever...
Right. Well, and then they get branded as a platform that's only for those people, and the problem exacerbates and becomes even worse. You are never going to be able to purchase one of those businesses and make it a mainstream or vastly used social media platform in the way that Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of these things are, because of the inherent business structure they've chosen. You can not really have... No one really wants... in the way that we're talking about, a free speech platform in the general society. They just don't.
Right.
The majority of Twitter users would not want Twitter if it was completely free speech.
Nope.
They wouldn't. So Elon, if he buys it, isn't going to do that. He's going to most likely loosen things up. And that's great, and that's probably what we need. Because frankly, if all he's going to do is create a bigger version of Gab, it's going to fail in 5 years. Like, it's not going to go anywhere. People will flee the platform. They'll be trolled, bullied, doxxed left and right. And it goes right back to the same thing. I mean, I grew up on the old school internet. I mean, that's why I get pissed at all these people going on with doxing stuff now. It's like, that was just a normal thing that you had to deal with. You had to learn how to hide your identity and protect yourself from getting doxed or your IP address getting out there, things like that. These days, on social media, that has been solved with... in an extent, if you have a big account that doxes somebody that goes after them, there's some kind of recourse, whether it's public recourse or them getting banned or restricted. If somebody posts them beating the shit out of somebody and assaulting them to try to gain monetary value from it, I don't think somebody should necessarily be able to do that. I don't have a problem with the social media accounts that I'm being involved in having that content removed. I don't need to see people posting child porn. I don't need to see people posting nudity in general. Like, if Twitter wanted to remove nudity, I'd have no issue with it. I don't look at that stuff on Twitter. It's not what I use the platform for. Like, so I want a good social media platform for myself. I don't care whether it's free speech. I want it to cater to me. So if it works without being completely free speech, I don't think it matters, because it's a private fucking company and they shouldn't be being involved in the government in the first place. And so if they want to make it open source, the way Elon was talking, which was making it visible to see where you're being shadow banned, see where there are restrictions and why those restrictions were placed, and maybe having a system for somebody to remove those restrictions from their account. So that somebody like an Alex Jones, when he gets removed for political disinformation or whatever bullshit, can then go appeal, just like you would on YouTube, and go through the process of saying, these are the reasons I shouldn't be banned, or you should change this from a banning to this, give me a, take me off for 3 days, or silence my account for 2 days, or limit who can see it, or restrict the ages of people who can see it. Those are all ways these problems can be fixed without creating a fucking gab, or and I don't think a gab would be successful on that scale. It just can't be.
I actually don't want it to be successful on that scale. I just want it to be a reasonable alternative that has some oomph and has a potential to at least.
Yeah, but so how many users are on Gab? I'm gonna look at.
I just want a marketplace where you have something. It doesn't have to be the same level of success, but it's something you can say, okay, if I don't like this, whatever this option is, could be the best option out there, but I don't like this. When there's reasonable alternatives, I can.
So there is 100,000 estimated active members and 4 million total as of March 2021. So even after the Trump election hype and the big heyday of Gab, you've only got 100,000 active users on that platform. Yeah. You cannot market and turn that into a successful social media platform. You can't do it. There's not enough ads to go around. There's not enough. You'd have to have all 100,000 of those people constantly watching a slide scroll ad for you to make that a profitable platform. Or you'd have to do it completely independently through donations, which is what Gab is doing now and failing at.
So I like
it's like
he said, and he said what I was trying to say. We need enough smaller competitors to keep big platforms accountable. That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
So
like this is the Odyssey model, right?
Yeah.
It's not replace YouTube, it's run right next to them and fucking scare the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Because on Odyssey you can sideload your content, which takes some of the power away from YouTube. If this platform gets big enough, then eventually if they remove you off YouTube, you'll have a decent sized platform to move to.
Yeah.
That's what makes that useful. That isn't present in Gab because Gab isn't an alternative to Twitter. It's just not. It's a completely different market, completely different marketed social media platform. They may say it's a alternative to Twitter the same way Gitter does, but they're just not because they're echo chambers and they have lower user bases. Look at what Gitter did. Gitter faked users by putting people's follower counts from Twitter on their platform. Because they knew they didn't have enough people.
Yeah, that was actually funny. I remember like Tim Pool was on with the creator of Getter, and he's like, "Yeah, we're crushing it." And then the next thing he gets the Gab guy on, he's like, "Yeah, Getter is lying about."
Get this: Getter is reported to only have 400,000 daily active members. So even if you consider that there are no crossover between Getter and Gab, that's 500,000 people total between those two social media platforms. And most of the crossover from Maize is going to be the same, which means you've got realistically a 400,000 or 500,000 person pool to reach from as a free speech social media platform. And that's not enough to be successful. I mean, Twitter has tens of millions of people on it. It's absurd. And even if half of those are bots, the numbers are still astronomically fucking insane. There's also the fact that Gab really isn't culturally national. It doesn't have any other country outreach, at least not that much. Same thing goes for Getter. It doesn't have a ton of outreach outside the US. It just has users pretty much here, which does affect your money-making side of the social media accounts. Like that's a big side of advertising on that in that realm.
I just want, I'm not debating. I agree with you in the sense of all what you're saying is true statistically. I just want there for all these, because to me, what keeps big tech or all these monopolies, at least, I'm not saying there'll be good people. I'm not debating the morality. But what I am saying is if there's competition, people all of a sudden they're like, oh, you can do something. You could go somewhere else. Like Comcast, when I said I'm leaving, they're the only one in my area. They're like, okay. But if it's somebody else who is like, okay, well, I could go to this, alternative, and I don't want you anymore. They're like, no, we'll give you this. We'll do this. No, I didn't mean to block that post here. You can have it back. I don't want you to leave. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I just want to hold these guys. Yes, I believe we should protect constitutionally protected speech on a state level, but I ultimately believe the best way to regulate good or bad behavior is competing market forces. and that
Right.
needs.
Well, I agree with that. I just don't think that. I just don't
Maybe
think
it's not
that.
Gab, maybe it's not Getter, maybe it's something else that I don't know.
Yeah, I just think if somebody wants to compete with them, they're either going to have to buy an already established company or start one from the scratch that isn't the same model as Gab or those guys.
I don't think
I hope they
the
do.
next big thing is going to be with text. I think
Yeah, I would actually probably agree with that as
you're
well.
not going to see the reason why you're not going to see Gab and Getter is because people don't want like posting messages anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
With the
I don't
success
Well,
like
you know,
no.
I'll give a
with
note
the
to
success of
TikTok on
TikTok,
that.
with the success of TikTok, your next big thing is not going to be 240
Well,
characters message.
on TikTok, they have video replies where you react to the person's video that they posted and it puts their face next to theirs.
Right.
That's ultimately how
You guys
I think
TikTok?
Twitter will move towards even in the next year or
Me
two.
too.
They're going to add that function.
Ah.
They've
And
already
kind of,
added the talking space, right?
Yep.
And
You
so it's
guys-
just a
you
Well,
matter of
guys
time.
that was to compete with
Oh,
Clubhouse.
but yeah.
I like
So-
Clubhouse. You guys use
Clubhouse is good.
Clubhouse?
They have a good, strong user base.
I want to. What's that?
Clubhouse?
Yeah.
It's basically like if you think of in social media, like you have text, you have videos. These are like audio podcasts, and you can pop from room to room to room and chat.
Yeah,
It's really
think
cool.
of
Oh,
it like
cool.
a live radio show kind of
It's like
setup.
it's actually
but
libertarian social media in that sense.
yeah, it is,
That's
and there's a
cool.
lot of libertarians on there.
Okay.
It is
Clubhouse.
built just like the Twitter Spaces. When you're in the lobby
Mhm.
and you have all the bubbles, that's how it's lined up there. That's where they stole that from.
Ah,
But if you join on there, I'm on there. You can hit me up, and I can show you some groups to get into.
deal.
Big tech is too heavily regulated. That is intentionally difficult to compete in the market. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the smaller companies that are attempting to compete are already having to get over the government hurdle, which I obviously don't agree with, but that's there. That's just the reality of the situation. So, you know, Gab at different places, they do it by creating different ISPs, by going through different companies,
Yeah, I don't
keeping
like that.
farms.
I don't like that. To me, the legit way to do it is to get your boy Elon, like, hey, I'll help you compete, and that's good.
Right. Well, that to me is a better method, but I don't think he's going to compete by turning Twitter into a version of Gab or making it completely free speech. I just don't think that that is an option from an economic angle, from a business perspective. I don't see that as being wise, I guess I would say. Unless he thinks he can somehow switch to a free speech model and retain the user base that's there and not bleed any, but I don't see that happening because a good 20-30% of that 20-30% of that user base on Twitter will most likely leave the platform if he comes on.
Probably.
And they might rejoin. But it's going to take a while. And you don't know how many of these Twitter accounts are bots. So what happens when Twitter gets sold and then whoever's running those bots pulls them all? And now the user base drops by 15-20%. And that affects stock prices, that affects everything. So there's a lot more at play there in the Elon purchase than I think people give credit for. Odyssey is doing an admirable job despite all the legal hurdles thrown at them. Yeah, so I'll talk about Odyssey for a second because that's something I've talked about before.
Yeah, because here's one problem. You can actually, and with Odyssey and that, it's interesting to me what Dave Rubin did with Locals and Rumble because you can almost create a secondary monster trying to fight a monster as well. And to me, Odyssey, I don't hate Rumble. I'll see where it goes, but I have a.
So I want to talk about Odyssey for 2 seconds. The thing that I have an opinion on with Odyssey is a few things. One is I think they need to really work on imaging. I think they need to work on marketing because they're great. Like the platform does work in the way that they claim it works. They have some technical issues with streaming that I think they need to get bugged out. But my biggest problem is the ease of access, right? The usability of it. The platform is still a little shaky in areas and things like that. Once that's aired out, I do think Odyssey has a legit chance to be a competitor with YouTube down the road. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I mean, back when Odyssey first started and the coin was worth money, you could make legitimate cash on Odyssey. And that just isn't really the case anymore. There's not really money to be made there. at least not currently. So if that changes, that's going to change the platform a great deal. If Elon came into Twitter and monetized Twitter and made it so that creators on there could make ad money, things like that,
Really cool.
that would change that platform greatly,
I'll
right?
go
And that might be
hardcore.
a way for him to get more people on. So maybe he does go full free speech and he off scales it with all that stuff. I just don't know if that's as probable as him just coming in if he does get some power within the company and changing some regulation stuff as far as who they're banning and how they're going about it, maybe making things more transparent. I think that would be the best way for him to handle it. And I think libertarians would actually benefit the most from that versus it becoming some gab wasteland, in my opinion.
It's free speech time. No, Elon, no.
All right. Well,
We-
I think we have talked for about an hour and 45
Yeah,
minutes.
we've
This is
been
probably
very
one of the
long.
longer shows I've done. So I will go ahead and let you guys do your outros, starting with you, CD.
All right.
If you want to go ahead and do that.
Follow me on Twitter. We talked about it in the beginning. I'm at Lady ANCAP, and I will have updates soon on new episodes of
Yes.
Whiskey and Tea. That's exciting. So
Hopefully I will come on that show when you start everything back up.
yes, Leighton,
That would be fun.
I owe you. So absolutely. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
And you, Kareem.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. I am Kareem from the Essential Libertarians. You can find it on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter at Kareem for Liberty. I do have a getter at the same name pretty much. You can also find me at Kareem Maize. You just hit / on Facebook. I also have my page, Kareem for Liberty, there as well.
All right. And my name is Leighton Radner. You can follow me on Twitter at Liberty Leighton and all that. Join me for the next show tomorrow and then possibly again on Tuesday. And watch out for emo Garth Brooks while you sleep.